Sit down, Chester. I'm tired. I want to talk, buddy. You've been working awful hard to keep an old man comfortable. Way too hard. Making sure I got coffee to drink and food to eat and that there's fire in the fireplace. I get all the sleep I need. When people come to the door wanting to hear the story about the great long distance trek that saved so many people down there, 200 people lived because I made that trip. And they think that's something great and they want to hear the story, and you tell them, go away, he ain't telling those stories. And everybody wonders why Jedadiah J. Stone don't want to talk about that long distance trek. Well, I knew you'd hang around here and keep me comfortable till I was ready to talk. And I'm ready now, and I'm going to tell you why I don't want to tell that story. And after that, you can just head on back to town and tell him he's just resting up. He'll be back in town doing his usual thing, walk around looking at things, telling stories. But I ain't going to be telling a story about that long distance trek. I ain't never going to talk about that because my heart's broke. I've never wanted anything more than to get there on time and save as many lives as I could. That's the one thing I needed more than I needed when I made that famous wagon trip with them boxes of gold so I could come to this town. The only thing I ever wanted more than to be able to have all the money I needed when I was 30 years old to keep doing my favorite thing. The only thing I ever wanted more than that was to save them lives. Most people work that hard to get enough money so they can just retire. Most people work all their lives to retire and do their favorite thing. But I worked as hard as I could work to make as much money as I could so I'd have all the money I needed so I could keep on working as hard as I could work. Because there's nothing I love more than a long distance trek. We come from what is now West Virginia 10 years before the Civil War. And all we had to do was walk alongside that wagon and carry a rifle in case there was bad people, and carry as much as we could carry in a pack, and I could always carry 25 pounds even when I was 8 years old. And all we had to do till we got to the Missouri River was walk as far as we could every day and talk about what we was going to do when we got out west and got that farm. And the only time there was any danger, the first time there was danger, was crossing that Missouri River. If there had been something bad in the water, if there had been a big old log coming down that nobody had counted on when we were crossing, and it hit that boat, everything we owned was lost. And if we got out of there and we were alive, we could still go on out west and do what farmers can do and make a lot of money. Mama was a good farmer's wife. She worked on the farm, all that was needed for her to get the work done with Pap. And then she had to cook and make sure that me and Pap had food and could go to bed on time. Any woman that can do that can get a job cooking anywhere. And there was lots of places that needed a woman that could cook. And Pap was a good farmer. And there was no job a good farmer can't do in what is now West Virginia. They don't pay a whole lot of money that far west, which was Kansas. We was headed for Kansas at the time. Nothing a good farmer could do in Kansas could fail to make money. And a little kid that could walk that far and carry that much weight, any job that kid was willing to take that involved walking and carrying a pack, if his mom and dad would let him do it, they'd hire that kid. I worked as hard as I could work so I could just keep on working. And I was never more motivated than that day that I come up here with them 5 gold coins. And everybody wondered if I had a better motivation than that, if I could do better. And the only motivation that could be more than that after I had the money I needed was to keep somebody else alive. And that was it. That was one thing that would make me work harder at 83 than I worked when I was 30. And that thing happened, and I did the best I could. That thing happened, and I did the best I could. And you think there's a lot of people alive because of that. But there ain't. Not near enough. If that wind had just stopped blowing right when I set out, and if it had been warm by noon, I'd have thrown away my tent and gone the rest of the way. And I'd have still felt pretty good when I got there with that medicine. And if anybody needed help, I could help out. The only thing that went wrong was that the wind kept blowing. It was cold. And I was about at the end of my endurance when the wind quit. And that was 10 o'clock. That was 10 o'clock. If I'd had to keep walking till noon, I'd have just dropped dead. 10 o'clock for that wind to stop blowing so that I could pitch a tent and get some sleep. That was the worst possible thing that could happen and me stay alive, was for the wind not to stop blowing till 10 o'clock. Because by then I needed a lot of sleep. And all I could do was pitch my tent, get on dry socks so I didn't sleep in wet socks, and put my head down and say one prayer. Lord, just let me wake up one more time. If I didn't die in my sleep, whenever I woke up, from that point on, I could keep walking, whether it was daylight or dark, because I had one of them newfangled flashlights. And once I woke up, it was just a matter of endurance. Just walk till you get there. And I hoped I woke up and I didn't need much sleep, but I needed too much sleep for an old man. It was daylight when I woke up, and my heart was broke. I'd have thrown that flashlight away if I didn't think I was going to need it to walk home. And I walked as fast as I could, and I was sick as I could be when I got there with that pack. And they saw me coming, and as soon as they saw me, there was 5 people left that was able to take care of the sick. And them 5 run as fast as they could and got that pack. They didn't say a word to me, they just went back. Started to take care of sick people. And nobody thought about Jedadiah J. Stone again till I was long gone. Because all I wanted to do was get out of there. And all I needed to get out of there was some dry socks and enough grub to get home and water. And then I was ready to walk straight through because I had that flashlight. And I didn't hang around. I didn't hang around to get sleep. I just got some socks, a bunch more socks to stay dry. I got some grub, made sure I had enough water and that flashlight. And I wrote an IOU for the stuff I took, signed it Jedadiah J. Stone. And I headed back. And they say there's a lot of people alive and that there's a big hero story coming from Jedadiah J. Stone, and it's springtime now. Snow's been gone a long time. And all you've been doing is make sure I'm comfortable. And anytime somebody comes to the door wanting to hear the story, you just tell them there's no story, go back. And you've done your job. You've done your job, and all I got to do is talk one more time. And then I want you to go, and I'll just be sad for a while, and 3 days from now I'll be in town. Doing what I always done, but I'm always going to look sad. And I'll always tell the stories. But I won't tell that one story. Because y'all think I done a great thing. I just done my best. The sons of the pioneers don't understand the pioneers. Y'all that come to me, you was born out here. You didn't come out here to make a living. You was born here. And you can make a good living here. And the only thing to keep you from making a good living here is if you're evil. If you're evil, you can get away with a lot of evil if you're smart enough. But if you get away with that much evil and they catch you, you're going to prison forever. if they don't kill you. An evil man out here is going to suffer terrible. And a good man can prosper. And the one thing we didn't know about coming west was how many evil men there'd be. Nobody dreamed that there were evil men that would work that hard to get that little. We set out for the West before the Colt cap and ball revolver was invented. That thing didn't exist when we set out. And when that thing was invented, that was just in time for the Civil War. If you had to have a pistol, that was the one. And Colt, Colonel Colt, he sold as many of those to the north as he could to the south. He didn't stop selling them to the south until everybody knew the war was coming, and that if he kept selling them, it was treason. That's how important money is to some people. And them Colt revolvers could be found by anybody, anywhere. But if you were good with one when the Civil War started, you were going to be in the middle of the fighting. If you were good with one of them and you didn't want to fight a war, and you wanted to do something with that, or do the most good, you'd come west. If you had one of them revolvers at that time, you could murder a lot of people and steal a lot of stuff. And there was lots of ways to die. We took a lot of chances. But everything we figured on would have to be an accident. We never figured that evil men would be so much trouble. One evil man on that road that didn't want me to get that medicine there could have killed me anytime I was walking by. They could have killed me because I wasn't looking out for evil men. I was just walking. But I knew there'd be no evil men. And the only thing that would slow me up would be bad weather. And the weather was just too bad. But I think about all the good that could have happened out here if there hadn't been evil men. How many god-awful gunfights there had to be because somebody wanted to steal cattle or steal gold. When I was hauling gold, it was hard work. But I could do it, and it'd be easy to get it done if there just weren't evil men. That's what made that trip to get them gold coins here so bad. Had to keep looking out every minute for the evil men. Had to stay alert. If they caught me looking unalert, they'd take a shot. 3 times they took a shot. 3 times I missed, and I killed one of them. That's how alert you had to be to get the job done. I done it. It would have killed me if I went to sleep, and I had to kill one man and shoot at 2 to get the job done. That's how hard it was to get things done when this country was young. And this country ain't young like that anymore. There ain't evil men that'll do something that evil to get so little. No evil man now, right now, while gold's still worth a lot of money, no evil man would take a chance like that for 5 boxes of gold coins. And that's a lot of gold. Why? To get that much gold coin now, illegal? I don't think there's a bank with that much money in it. You'd have to be something more than a bank robber. 10 bank robbers couldn't get that much gold. And when I say we're willing to kill a god-awful lot of people and knew how to get a long ways away, it's easy to work. The only thing that makes work hard is evil. And that's why my heart's broke, because so few people lived. There'd have been so many more of them alive if I just hadn't had to sleep. And that's the only thing. And the only thing that could have stopped me after that was an evil man. And there was just no evil men, and that's the best I could do when there was no evil. And that's what makes me sad, that there's evil in the world. There's evil everywhere you go. But out here, when the country was young, being evil paid the most. And whenever you were doing that paid the most, that's where you had to deal with the most evil men. And I never dreamed that many evil men would work that hard for so little. That's the one thing none of us counted on. And that's why so many of the pioneers died. Because of the evil. They think, they call you the last man standing if you can still do what you did for a living better than anybody else when you're old. And when that comes to here out west, they think you got to be good with a revolver. You only had to be good with a revolver if there was an evil man. If there was an evil man, you had to have a revolver. A revolver didn't do me any good coming through that pass with all that gold. I had to have a rifle that could shoot a long way. That pistol was just there in case somebody wanted to steal the gold when I was unloading it. I wasn't that good with a pistol. See, the thing about being good in the West and being the last man standing is that you're better at it than anybody else when you're young, and you can still do it when you're old. And you just don't need a .45 revolver to do it. They call me the last man standing, and they think that's what you'd call a cowboy. A cowboy wouldn't be the last man standing that was good with a revolver. A cowboy only had to have a revolver if his foot was hung in his stirrup and he had to shoot his horse. Or he had to shoot the lead steer when there was a stampede. Or one of his parts had 2 broken legs and there was no way to save him and you had to shoot him in the head. A revolver was the last thing you wanted when you were a cowboy. But cowboys could kill a lot of people with a revolver if they were put in a jam. If there were cattle rustlers, you could kill a hell of a lot of rustlers with revolvers. That's the only problem with calling the last man standing a cowboy and associating it with a Colt 45 revolver. I couldn't do much with a Colt 45 revolver even today. If there was a god-awful gunfight and I got one man and I died and one of my bullets hit the mark and there was 6 empties, I wouldn't be a good cowboy. I'd be the worst cowboy there was and scared to death. God damn. It ain't the work. It ain't the work that makes you the last man standing. It's how much evil you can deal with. And that's why I'm the last man standing as a long-distance trekker. Because I was never evil. I was never evil. I never wanted to kill anybody. And there's people that come here to kill people. Them were the bad ones. They come here for that purpose. That's why there was so much terrible blood and gore and killing. And why the Colt 45 was so important. Is it was just the best pistol you could get when you needed a pistol at the time. I swear to God. They can call me you're the last man standing as long as they want. But I don't own a Colt 45. I don't own any kind of pistol. I got a long distance rifle in the corner. And it's good and clean and I ain't shot it in 20 years. And there's bullets that fit it if they'll still go off. And if you want to come up here and target practice, I'll stand there by you. And if one of them shots goes off every other time, you're lucky. If you want to come up here and target practice, you got to have fresh ammo. I'm satisfied now. You done what you could. And I'm finally able to think straight, do what I want to do, rest up a bit. You go back to town and you tell him Jedadiah J. Stone will be in town 3-4 days from now. But he ain't no hero. There ain't no story to tell. He just done the best he could, and if the weather had been better, the job would have got done. That's the only reason it didn't work. That's the only tragedy that so many people died. It was nature. Nature can kill you. There's lots of ways nature can kill you. But nature don't kill you because it's evil. Nature was just the worst possible way it could be. That's the only reason more people didn't live. When I got there and they had that pack, there was nothing for me to do. I wasn't going to hang around. I went to the mercantile, made sure I had plenty of dry socks, grub to eat. I had that flashlight. I wrote an IOU, and I headed back. And there ain't nobody showed up with that IOU to collect because the mercantile guy's dead. And I don't know who's running that mercantile bank or what happened to that IOU. I might never pay that money back. But please, all I want you to do is head on out. Tell them I'll be back in town in 3 days. And if they can, just don't ask about that last long distance trek. You tell them that one question ain't going to get no answer for the rest of my life. And that's why every time they talk to me from now on, it's going to be a sad story. I'm a good man. I got good in my heart. I'm not evil. I've done the best I could. I done it better than anybody could have done it. More people are alive because of this old man than if any young man had tried it. So I'm a good old man. But I'm sad because the weather was bad. And I'm sad because the only reason life out here is hard is because there is evil in the world. And there is evil and good in the world everywhere you go. And a good man's heart, when he's ready to die, is only broken because he's never made peace with the fact that there's evil in the world. This is as close as I'm going to get to crying. I ain't going to say nothing to make me cry. I'm just going to say this. Long as I live, to the day I lay down and go to sleep and die in my sleep, I ain't never going to understand evil. I know a man can be evil if he wants to be. I just don't know why anybody would want to be evil. And I'll never understand. And the day I die, whatever comes when you're dead, if there's a heaven and I'm there, I'm going to ask God if he can tell me, why do people choose evil? And if there's an answer to that question, it's going to break my heart. But I think the only answer is God gives people free will. And you can choose to do anything you want and be anybody you want. And if you want something, you can have it if you can get away with it. And that's free will. And that's the way it should be. I chose good with my free will. And I can't understand why a man who can work as hard as me would choose evil. And I'd have to get one of them evil men to tell me. If a cutthroat murderer that could kill everybody he could ran into me on the street and we both understood each other, and he had a Colt 45 revolver and he could pull it and kill me anytime he wanted and get away with it, I'd say, listen, you can pull that Colt and kill me and I ain't scared. I just want one favor. Tell me why. Tell me why you would make that choice. And if I understand why you would choose to be that evil, and I can't talk you out of that, I don't want to live no more. I need you to pull that trigger. That's how broke my heart is, Chester. You go on back and let me just drink my coffee and think. I'll be along in a few days and you know what to say. Thanks a lot, Chester. We all done the best we could, and that's just how it turned out. I gotta drink my coffee and think now.